Welcome back to Mr. Kreutinger's Virtual Art Room. We have a really fun project that you can do at home using pretty simple materials. Today, we are going to make an art robot. A robot that can draw. Now, this robot doesn't draw realistically, though. It kind of draws abstract. Makes a lot of interesting patterns. But I'm going to show you how to make it out of very simple materials. You can use a cardboard box. You could also use something simple like a Tupperware container or a plastic cup or a plastic bowl. Or you can also use a soda can. As you can see, it's kind of clear because it is a green seltzer can. I should have picked one of the other colors. If you don't know, I'm not actually in my classroom. This is a green screen. Sorry if I fooled you. So, what do we want to use today? Soda can or Tupperware container? If you want to use the soda can, give me a thumbs up on the screen. Okay, if you want to use the Tupperware container, give me a thumbs up. It looks like today we are going to be using the soda container. We're going to turn this into an art robot. You think we can do it? I hope so. If we can't, we'll head back to the Tupperware. Well, here's what it's going to need. It's going to need some legs. So, and these legs should be able to draw. So we're going to use some markers here. I think we should probably use 4 markers. Let's try it. And here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to tape them to the can, one at a time. Look at that. That's pretty interesting. It does kind of look like an animal now. Now, here's the thing. Right now, this thing isn't really going to draw on its own, right? What is going to power it? That is the question. And what we're going to use is one of, have you seen these? It's a little fan. These are really inexpensive, too. I got this on Amazon for, I think it was like $2. I think they even have them at the dollar store, though. Walmart, Target, any sort of store that's kind of in the aisle. They're super cheap. And I found that this makes a pretty good little motor for an art robot. So watch what I do. Let's tape it on to here. Now I like to also tape it, too, in case in the future you need to change out the batteries. It just makes it a little easier to do. And we tape it on like this. Now, when I turn it on, what do you think is going to happen? Let's see. Dun, dun, dun. Well, the fan is moving, but it's not moving the robot. And there's a reason why. It's because these fan blades weigh the same. If you think about it, this is actually the same sort of mechanism that's in a phone or iPad or anything that can buzz. It's actually a little fan. But what it is one of the blades is a little bit heavier. And when you make one of the blades just a little bit heavier, the weight is swung around. And the swinging around of that weight causes it to move in the direction where the weight is being thrown. So it really starts to move around. So let's try it. I like to use a penny or a little washer. But in this case, what we're going to use is a little nut. A little like from a bolt and a nut. That's what I'm going to use. So what I'm going to do is tape that to one of the fan blades and watch what happens. All right. Now let's try it again. Look at that. Oh, he's jumping off the table. Now, should we see how he draws? Oh, let me take the caps off. He's not going to draw very much without the caps, with the caps on. Put it right here. And let's see what he does. He makes some cool patterns and designs. Look at that. I'll give you a close-up too. Look at those markings. Look how constant they are in the pattern. That's because the motor is going at a steady rate. Let's see if there's anything we can do to change the patterns. Now, it might not change so much the marks that are being made, but it might change the arc of the lines here. So this is kind of a wide arc. Let's see what happens. There's a couple things we can do. We could put a different weight on there. And we can also move where the motor is. I think that'll have a different effect, because right now the motor is way all the way at the end like a tail. I wonder what happens if we move it to the middle. Okay, let's try. Look at that. Now it's doing a tighter circle, because remember before it kept wanting to jump off of the page. That's kind of interesting, isn't it? I haven't had to catch him once yet. Here comes though. Oh. Okay, he jumped off. Whoa, there he goes. Got a life of his own. Let's compare them now quick. So we had lines like this versus lines like this. Now, given I did have to pick it up and put it down a couple more times, but last time it kept wanting to jump off. This time it kind of stayed mostly on the page, and we have some kind of different designs coming out. Kind of interesting, huh? Now let's do one more. Let's try to change one more time and see what happens. This time, why don't we change the weight of the propeller? I have a washer like this. This weighs a little bit more. Let's see how that affects the drawing. Tape it on. Now let's see. It might be too heavy, because you definitely don't want something too heavy. That'll really slow it down. Let's see. Well, that's kind of interesting. Now, since it's in the middle, the motor, it's still kind of doing a tight circle. But because there's more weight, do you notice what's different? It's a little bit subtle, but there's definitely something different, I can tell. Raise your hand if you can tell what's different. Oliver. Yeah, it is. It's definitely bouncing a little bit more. What has that done to the lines, though? You notice what that did to the lines? Yeah, you notice that it changed from kind of making, this was kind of making dots all around. If we look up close, well, obviously this blue one is clearly a line, but like over here, there's kind of dots, or at least a tight line, right? Whereas if we go back over here, look at this. We have these interesting swirly kind of lines like that. It's really kind of cool. Well, we'll do one more. I'm gonna add a different color just to jazz it up a little bit, and then I'll give you some more tips on making one yourself. I think this can worked really well, too. All right, we've got some new colors here. And I'm going to actually move the fan one more time. I'm going to move it back where it was, because I think it moved around more there, which means I'm going to have to catch it from jumping off more often, but it might make for a more interesting sketch. All right, are you ready? Drum roll, please. There he is. He's drawn. He's on the move. Let's move him over a little bit. Look at that. We have some really interesting things going on here. Over here, it did like zigzags. And over here, it did little dashes. And then the blue line is swirlies, as well as the yellow line here. That's pretty cool, isn't it? The best tips I can give you is whatever you're using for the body, make sure that it's really light. That's why I think this pop can actually worked really, really well. Earlier today, I tried one with this cardboard box, which I've made them out of cardboard boxes before, and they can work okay, but I think this one ended up being a little bit too big, and it didn't move around as much. Because this fan is only so strong. So the lighter your robot is, the more it'll move because there's less weight for it to push around. Other things I've used is even like a styrofoam bowl or a styrofoam plate can work too. It's really great to use recycled materials for this as well. So that is how our drawing a robot came out. I think that was pretty cool. It made some really interesting designs. And one thing I love about doing these robots is every single time that I make one, it makes different designs. Depending on how long these legs are, depending on where you put the motor, depending on where you put the weight, if it's further out, if it's closer in, and the different weights of the weight, also affect the type of drawing that you create. So every single time I make one of these, it makes a completely different design. And as you saw, it's also kind of fun to change it as you go. And one more thing that's really fun to do is to actually design this to look really interesting. A lot of times what I like to do is put some eyes and a mouth on it. I don't typically like to use googly eyes, but googly eyes are actually kind of fun on this because of the way the whole robot shakes. It makes the eyes kind of jump around a little bit. So not only can you make an interesting design with your robot, you can actually design your robot to also look really interesting. Well, that's it for today, guys. I hope you enjoyed. And if you make a robot, I want to see it. Make sure you take pictures of not just the art that the robot makes, but also take pictures of your robot and send them to me. You can put them on the Mr. Kreutinger's Art Class Facebook page, or you can have your parents email them to me. Whatever is most convenient for you. Thanks for having me. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I can't wait to see your art and see you guys in person soon, hopefully. All right. Bye, guys.